This is 40K Today. 40K news so huge that Asdrubial Vect once tried to catch it in a Drukhari raider and said, I think we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Welcome to 40K Today. This is Friday, July the 3rd. It is Feel Good Friday. On today's episode, we've got the best in news, views, and interviews from Warhammer 40,000. It's the best 15 minutes that's going to make its way into your ear holes. My name is Paul Murphy, and before we get to the rest of the show, I want to talk to you about our poll question up on 40K Today's Facebook page. We ask, is Overwatch for the Tau fair and balanced? They don't have to spend CPs to do it. By about 30%, you guys agree that it is fair and balanced. 62 to 38%. People think the Tau rule is okay. I think it is okay. There's been their special rule for a long time. That's the kind of thing we expect from them. Our first segment is with Oculus Imperia. Tanya sits down with them and takes a look inside their YouTube channel.
Thanks for coming on the show, Oculus Imperia.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a delight to be on.
So you make YouTube videos about the lore in the Grimdark universe, but yours are a little bit different than most. Can you explain the concept behind your channel for our listeners?
The concept of Oculus Imperia is quite literally that there is a character, ostensibly just kind of referred to as the Chronicler or Oculus, depending on what the users like to think of him as, who exists within that grimdark future, within the 41st, 42nd millennium, depending on how you like to see it. And he is a member of the Logos Historica Vertia, which is an in-canon organization set up by Guilliman when he returned to chronicle the Imperium's history. So essentially, he is a future historian and chronicles that future.
And how did you come up with this idea?
It kind of goes back to when I first decided to just get going with the channel itself. There was a point in my life before the channel got started where I was waiting on Canadian immigration to give me the go-ahead to continue to live and work within Canada, and I had nothing to do with my time. So I taught myself to learn general video and audio editing software, but I needed a project with which that could kind of be refined as opposed to just doing random stuff. I've been watching a lot of Warhammer lore videos. I'd been reading a lot of Warhammer lore, just as I'd done for so much of my life. And I kind of wanted to just explore a part of Warhammer that I didn't really feel was being represented online. And that was by using a character within the universe to further contextualize the universe, just to kind of explore the Imperial perspective and kind of everything that would entail. It originally didn't start out as what it has turned into. It was very much a bit of a minor twist in my first few videos, but the community on YouTube responded in such a great way that it gradually just became central to the channel itself. And I'm grateful for it because it does very much provide me with a really strong creative outlet.
I think it's a really interesting idea. And as an outsider looking in, it appears that a lot of research has to be done to go into every single one of these videos. Can you kind of give us some perspective of like what kind of pre-recording effort goes into these videos?
The pre-recording effort takes up the vast majority of the channel's time. I'm not the best at general video content creation, as I think anyone who watches the videos could probably tell. But I trained in college as a historian, and that probably would have been my career path had life not just taken an entirely different turn. And that kind of just allows me to use that in a very bizarre way to just collate sources from entirely fictional material. It's drawn partially from how my stupid brain works in remembering completely useless information, but also just by pulling on various threads that crop up in any of the source material, be it like the codexes or Forge World books or Black Library books. They all get considered, but they also have to be hammered into shape. And that's where the script writing work really comes in.
So, what is your favorite piece of 40K lore that you've come across so far?
Oh, now there's a question. It's kind of hard to pick out exactly the favorite, only because 40K lore runs the gamut from being incredibly small and horrific to absolutely gigantic and horrific. And there's a lot to love about both sides of that particular spectrum. I've always found the most insanely over-the-top gothic aspects of 40K to be the most compelling. It's kind of what drew me to the universe as a teenager. Imagine gothic stuff resonating with a 13-year-old. Who'd have thunk it? I would say possibly my favorite in recent times would be from Vaults of Terra, The Hollow Mountain, where Chris Wright, the author, goes on a magnificent exploration of one of Holy Terra's largest imports, which is vellum, because the Imperium, being the Imperium, doesn't trust cogitators or data wafers or even just paper. It wants vellum, it wants parchment, it wants stuff that's literally made out of animal hide. And just how much has to be made and then shipped to Terra, and how much is then copied onto it. Like, it's so hilariously over the top, but is delivered with such like barefaced conviction at the same time. And that to me kind of encapsulates what 40K is. It's a cartoon, but it takes itself seriously, but it knows it's a cartoon at the same time. And that's just what I love about the universe.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. And I can't wait to see what you come up with next. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a delight.
Thanks a lot, Tanya. It is really cool to take those deep dives into the lore.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
In our next segment, we get a coaching tip from Grand Tournament champion Nick Nanvati.
All right, welcome back, Nick. Glad to have you back on the show. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about 9th edition. GW surprised us all by releasing the core rules for free for everyone, which is the first time they've ever done that in my memory. What did you think? Was there anything in there that kind of surprised you about the new rule set?
Honestly, a lot of small stuff. We kind of had a really good picture of what 9th edition looked like based on all the previews they've been showing up for the past 2 weeks. So not too much here that really caught me off guard. A couple interesting things that are very minute, like on the higher end competitively, like you now have to allocate wounds to a model if you've already started to do that phase. So what I mean by that is, imagine you have 3 Custodes and one of them has a Storm Shield and 2 of them just don't. And then your opponent shoots you with the las cannon, so you're going to tank it on your Storm Shield guy. And you pass your 3 up invul. Now I get to shoot all my bolters and stuff at you, and you still have to take it on your Storm Shield because you started to take it there. So there's some small nuanced stuff like that. Other things like you can't flip-flop between your Psykers now. When you pick a Psyker, he casts his powers until he's done, then you move to your next Psyker.
I quite like that change because it's almost impossible to follow a Grey Knight player or a Thousand Suns player.
Oh, I was about to use Chaos as the example. Yeah.
Yeah. Either one. They both cast so many spells from so many different people, and you're like, well, I guess I just have to sort of take it on faith.
I'm just going to trust that you're not cheating right now. Exactly.
Right.
An interesting change is that you have to include all of your pregame selections on your list. Did not expect to see that change. That's going to change a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, so there'll be less customization, right? You can't pregame spend. Can you buy additional artifacts and stuff pregame now, or no?
Yeah, you can, but like pregame like on your list, not pregame like when I get to the table.
Right, so you can't customize your artifacts for a matchup.
Right.
I don't know if I like that change. I kind of
I kind of
I'll be
liked it
interested.
too, being able to see, like, customize it for the match. I thought there was a layer of skill there. But at the same time, it's really annoying when you play against the guard player as the chaos player, and they're like, well, I will take the Relic of Lost Cadia today. It's like, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Also, it's kind of annoying keeping track of what's where, and if it's on their army list,
That's true. Yeah, it's much
it's
more
just from a
straightforward.
there's just less room for misinterpretation. And I think if you were to look at some guiding principles for ninth edition, it's make the game faster, except for morale. We'll talk about that in a minute. So make the game faster, make it cleaner and neater. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of rules around just simplifying things, like
They also took problems from 8th edition, like things that players exploited unintentionally, or maybe they written rule with unintended consequences, and they just hard stopped them a lot of places. They were like, okay, we really don't like rapping, so let's make a bunch of rules that are not pro rapping.
I don't think rapping was ever intended.
Yeah, no. Interesting. Also, they've introduced the half-inch concept, which is something they've never done before. So like melee, you can fight if you're within half an inch of a model that's within half an inch of an enemy, which definitely cuts down the number of guys you can swing. Which is, I'm not sure if I like that, but it is definitely something.
That's a pretty big nerf to the assault phase, in my opinion.
I don't think the assault phase needed to be nerfed harder, so I don't know why they did that. But it also is a pain to measure in half inches. It's just like, especially in close combats, everything is congested, a lot of models, things overhanging their bases. Now it's hard enough to measure an inch. Now you want me to go deeper on the minutia? It's annoying.
I think it's going to be one of those intent kind of based discussions with your opponent.
You eyeball it and just kind of agree.
Okay, well, just so everyone knows, Nick and I are going to be doing an entire Art of War 2 episode series with, I believe, Siegler, right?
Yes. One of these days.
Completely breaking down all of the rules for 9th edition and kind of going through all of our impressions. We just hit a few highlights here today. You guys should definitely check that out at the Art of War podcast, which you can find on the Frontline Gaming Network or on our Patreon. Episode 1s are always available to everybody, so make sure you come and check that out. Last thing before we go, now that we have a picture of the rules, Nick, how do you feel about 9th edition?
Overall, I really like it. And they're not paying me to say that. I genuinely really like it. They took a lot of 8th edition, what worked, and they didn't throw it in the trash can, start over. They took what worked in 8th edition, they kept it, they refined it. This feels like an 8.5, which is exactly what I think we needed. Like, 8th edition wasn't broken. It wasn't a perfect rule set either, but it was the foundation of a good core, and they just added onto it and improved it. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually super excited to finally be able to start playing 9th edition. They gave us the detachment rules, so now we can build lists legally. Now, as soon as we get the point costs, we'll be good to go.
This Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we are going to have a round-table discussion on the Art of War Twitch channel. Between various Art of War coaches, we're kind of finalizing which ones will be available, since it is 4th of July, of course. But if you're around 10 a.m. Eastern Time, check that out on twitch.tv/AOW40K. It'll be kind of Ask Me Anything, so you can ask whichever coaches are available what their opinions are on certain subjects, and we'll just discuss the rules and our thoughts on them in depth.
Cool. So that'll be an AMA about 9th edition. Make sure you guys check it out. All right, Nick, thanks for your time.
It's great anytime you get to hear from someone with proven success. Nick, thanks a lot for stopping by. Guess what? You know what time it is. It's time for that model of the day.
It's the model of the day, the model of the day, the model of the day.
This one brought to us by Cadian Sergeant Steel on Instagram for Cadia. Cadia is destroyed, gone, dead, but not forgotten. These models are keeping it alive. The fatigues, the armor, this is just something about that armor. I get the impression that Cadians are soft and squishy because they need all that extra armor that Catechans don't seem to, but not with this miniature. This guy is primed, he's throwing a grenade, he's got the plasma. He is holding it down for Cadia. This could be their last stand, and this is what you want to see while they're doing it. Check him out on Instagram, and don't forget to use that hashtag 40K today. We will feature your model sooner or later on this show. That is it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a great week if you're celebrating a holiday here in the States. I hope you do it safely and well. Keep saying out there, thanks for joining us. A big thanks to our content producer, Alex Bander, our social media genius, Tanya Gates, and our technical producer, Seamus Ronan, for all their hard work and everything they do to bring this show to you each and every day. Tune in tomorrow for our Best of the Week episode. My name is Paul Murphy. I will see you next week. Don't forget to leave us those 5-star reviews. We hope to hear from you.